Hi, my name is Kieran Kern and this is my MBA assignment for digital entrepreneurship. It's about digital startups, and the company I've chosen to go with is Netflix. Netflix has been around for quite some time. It's around since 1997, and as typical of a lot of tech companies, it's headquartered in California. The current CEO is Reed Hastings, who also happens to be one of the founders. They have around 7,000 employees as of 2019. So here are the two founders. The guy on the top left is Reed Hastings, and the guy on the bottom right is Mark Randolph. The two met in a company called Adaptive Software. They obviously have an entrepreneurial spirit, and they decided to get together, and what came out of that is the company we know today as Netflix. Some of the background to that is, as I've just mentioned, is the two guys work together in a software company. The story goes that after returning a movie, which I believe was Apollo 13, Reed Hastings had to pay a $40 late fee. He was annoyed and embarrassed about this, and he began thinking about potential business opportunities in the DVD market. Amazon at the time were hugely successful in the book sale market, which we all know how that turned out, and Reed and Hastings wanted to be the Amazon of something. So the idea that they came up with was, well, let's start up a mail service where we can post people out DVDs and they can return them. So here is this, I accept this slide is quite busy, but this is the business canvas model for their startup. Obviously the value proposition was the rental of DVDs via post. They never offered a VHL service. Their model was similar to one of its key competitors, which is Blockbuster. The channels was obviously online, which was quite new. This had never been done before. The key activities, well, they needed to purchase the DVDs, the orders needed to be processed, and they always needed to deliver on their commitments. The key partners that they had involved were obviously the suppliers of DVDs and the operators of the warehouse. Their customer base initially was in the US and the US only. Netflix later expanded, but at the start they were based in the US and only the US. Their cost structure was quite simple. It was the rent and labour of processing the DVDs in the warehouse. There was obviously the cost of posting the DVDs and the capital it took to purchase and replace broken DVDs. The revenue structure was also quite simple. It was a pay per model based, and it was similar, as I said, to Blockbuster, and the rates were similar to that of Blockbuster too. So what challenges do they face? Most of the time for digital startups, and even this is true of today, there's funding. Luckily for Netflix, they didn't have that issue. After Hastings had sold his company, he made a lot of money, and he was in a position to provide the seed capital for Netflix. Okay, so let's say that's maybe not a challenge for Netflix, but I put it in there because it is a very significant challenge in the digital world we live in today and historically. One of their big challenges obviously was Netflix backed DVDs, very much so. DVDs were created by Sony in 1994, and when Netflix set up, less than 1% of the US population owned a DVD player. So this was an incredible gamble on DVD technology and in technology in general, which turned out to be correct. What was their video rental had never been offered online before, so Netflix were trying to completely change consumer habits. Video rental up to that point was a typical bricks and mortar. You went into Blockbuster, you rented your movie and you went home. This was a totally new idea. Some of the technical challenges that they faced, Netflix started very, very strong, and in the first 48 hours their site was so busy that they had to increase their bandwidth to deal with the traffic that was coming into the site. So that gives you an idea of how successful it was from day one, really. So who are their competitors? Well, their competitors were people like Walmart were in the industry, but their real competitor was by far and away Blockbuster. Blockbuster had been around since 1985. It was purchased by Viacom in 1994 for $8.4 billion. In 1998, they employed 37,000 people. They had 2,800 locations worldwide and a revenue of $2.1 billion. So that just shows you the type of Goliath that Netflix was up against when they started. Netflix were so concerned about competing with Blockbuster that in 2000 they offered Blockbuster the opportunity to acquire them for 50 million. Netflix would become the internet arm of the company and would even change their name to Blockbuster.com. According to people who were there, that the Blockbuster executives laughed Netflix out of the room, and they failed to see the advantages of the new technology. In 2004, Blockbuster realized how wrongly they had got this, but it was too late. They did offer online services, but they were far too late to the game. And in 2010, Blockbuster ended up filing for bankruptcy. If Reed Hastings is on record as saying that if Blockbuster had got into the game maybe 2 years earlier, there would be no Netflix. They would not exist. Blockbuster just failed to see the potential that Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph did see. So Netflix set out to overhaul the video rental market, and they very much did this. What we know today is the hugely successful subscription model that is enjoyed all over the world. Their movement to an online platform was pioneering. It was unique. It is, I suppose, the way we enjoy entertainment today is really as a result of what Netflix have done. Binge watching is common language now, but this never existed, and it never could have existed if it wasn't for people like Hastings and Randolph seeing the advantage in this technology and then having the nerve to back that and with their own money. So Netflix really is a true digital success story. It has been digital since the day it started. It has always up to this point emerged with new technologies, and that's a huge reason for the growth that it has today and the success that it has now. So I would like to know, based on what I've just said, if there are any questions.
So what do you think was the biggest risk facing Netflix when it started?
Well, certainly the biggest risk facing Netflix when it started was the change of consumer habits. They were offering a product that had never been offered before. VHS dominated the market at the time. As I said, less than 1% of the US population owned a DVD player. DVD players were hugely expensive at the time, but Randolph and Hastings were sure that this would be the new technology, and they proved correct in that. They also, when Netflix launched, they created what's called a smart algorithm. This is common technology today, but at the time it was groundbreaking. It basically suggested titles to people who had rented 4 or more movies based on their previous suggestions. So as I said, that we consider it common at the moment, but that was revolutionary technology at the time.
Okay. And would you think Netflix can be considered as a disruptor?
Yes, Netflix is one of the original disruptors. Netflix completely changed the movie rental market. At the time Netflix launched, cable TV was very, very expensive. They had no competitors when they kicked off, as I said. Their main competitor they had competitors, but they didn't have anyone doing what they done. They are a disruptor in every sense of the word, and they continue to be a disruptor in certain areas. Obviously, they have huge competition now, and their competition just continues to increase. But at the time of startup, they are one of the original disruptors. Yes.
And one final one, do you think the success of Netflix today is a surprise?
I don't think it's a surprise. I think if you spoke to Reed Hastings, if you went back in time and told Reed Hastings in 1997 that Netflix would be what it is today, they are in almost every country in the world. They're not in China because of licensing laws. They're not in the Crimea or Syria because of US restrictions. But basically, Netflix has worldwide domination in terms of the media market. And I think in that sense, is it a surprise? Yes, but Netflix have always been they have always been innovative and grasped new technologies, offered new technologies. Their pricing plans have always been excellent. Their content is amazing. But as a startup, I can't imagine that Hastings would have seen where they are now. As I said, they started off as a DVD rental service. Streaming didn't exist. So what they are now is a completely different company than to when they started. But their success is due to the fact that they saw the potential in, number one, I suppose, the DVD market, but really what they saw is the potential in online and the ability for that platform to increase and grow, and the innovations that offered. Is that it?
That's perfect. Thank you.
No problem.